What's good, YouTube? It's your main man, AB the Hero, back again with another video. Ooh, and we're about to talk about what is happening down in Charlotte. It's a lot of turmoil going on. We're going to react to some James Borrego post-game press conference stuff, and we're going to see if James Borrego actually believes the stuff coming out of his mouth. Let's go.
Triple B's! AB the Hero, back at it, baby.
Before we take a deep dive into all of this, I want to say thank you all for hitting the like button before that intro was over. I know you the real ones. You don't even wait for the video. You just get straight into it. Now, let's talk about some things because I want to set the tone here for this video. Right now in Charlotte, there is another pivotal moment taking place, right? There's a moment, and we've seen this last season, I'll touch on it, where the media, the LaMelo stands, and the Charlotte Hornets forever fans begin to start to see things the same way, right? For most of the season, there's some tension there. Folks think Melo need a little bit more. Folks think that the coach is doing great. Other folks think the coach is tripping. Who else is doing? There's always some tension. But then there's a pivotal moment where folks is like, all right, the jig is up. There's some bullshit. I take you back to last season, right? Last season, LaMelo Ball started the season coming off the bench. He would get into the games, ignite the team. If they were down, they would come back. If they were ahead, they would push forward. We saw starters struggling, and there was a strong contingent of LaMelo fans who was saying, LaMelo's gotta be a starter. And there was a strong contingent on the other side saying, no, the coach knows what's happening. And the media in between rode the fence. LaMelo is this, such and such. But then there was a moment where my man Rick Bonnell, RIP, started really going in on James Borrego. Come on now. At this point, like, what, is LaMelo the starter? Why not? What's going on? And then the fans started to line up. The LaMelo then started to line in the front, and everybody got on the LaMelo has to start train. This don't make no sense. JB, what are you doing? This year, it's minutes, it's rotation, it's crazy from the LaMelo side. The fan, but coaches, he got that Popovich system. He was with the Spurs. He know what he doing. And the media straddling the fence. Right now, after last night's game, last night, the Hornets took on the Miami Heat and lost big time bad, 104-86, in a game where we saw all of these starters be benched for the entire fourth quarter. You look here, these are the minutes for the fourth quarter here. 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes. No subs. Get out there and go. That means Terry Rozier, no fourth quarter minutes. Miles Bridges, no fourth quarter minutes. LaMelo, Gordon Hayward, no fourth quarter minutes. In a game where we even saw, you look here, there's another notable name who got 0 minutes, James Bouknight. A game where we saw a damn near a physical altercation almost take place on the sideline with James Bouknight standing up looking at like Borrego like, bro, you don't know me. I will put these things that are shooters, but they also can throw. On Borrego, they separated, took my man Bouknight back to the locker room, and things were peaceful from that point. But in the post-game presser, right? In the post-game presser, we had a lot of statements come out from players. And most of the players said, this is the brotherhood. We sticking in this together. We're facing some adversity, but things are going to be okay. We're sticking in this together. And what really caught my eye about hearing that was the ideal of this is a brotherhood. And the way that they talked about it, the brotherhood was not the entire situation, but it's the dudes in the locker room. It's the Miles Bridges, the Roziers, the James Bouknights, the LaMelo Balls, hopefully the Gordon Haywards, the Mason Plumleys. We a brotherhood. We gonna figure it out. And what happens typically when you have that brotherhood and you start to gain that solidarity, there's somebody who becomes the main adversary. In this moment, it's starting to seem like the main adversary of this brotherhood, the main catalyst for this unity, is James Borrego. Which makes sense. But here is where it gets wild, right? I'm looking at these different posts on social media here, and the fans, normally it's a healthy amount of, but James know what he's doing. But James, we love James. He's a great coach. If Melo was playing better, he would. If such and such was, and you still have some of that. If you scroll through here, this Twitter here, you still, Melo needs to get frustrated the same way or nothing will change. So this here is him saying Melo got to get frustrated the same way James Bouknight. Borrego clearly lost the locker room. You Melo, you stands kill me. JB know what he's doing. So that's what I'm saying. There's still some there. But if you scroll through here, it is not as glaring as it used to be. There's not as many Charlotte long-term fans sticking up for their guy James Borrego. It's getting a bit ugly on that side of the fence. If you do a Twitter search here, let's do a Twitter, you can search up Borrego, you get some content here, you get some let me see some of this stuff here. My thoughts on Bouknight Borrego situation. Horns James Borrego said Gordon just such and such. Nobody then says Borrego not that type of guy, makes you think see, it's a lot going on here. You'll be able to find all of this stuff. My final thoughts for Borrego, could find Bouknight 10 to 12 minutes, but not much more than that. If I said this a while ago, when it comes to the Bouknight situation, it is hard right now for them to find some minutes. It seems, well, let me say this, it seems like it's hard for them to find him some minutes, right? But when we look at the box score from last night and we pull up all periods, let me show you something. The last couple of games, this is Gordon Hayward's first game back, so he hasn't played in a minute. So there's some minutes just available there with Gordon Hayward being out, right? Because it's positionless basketball, folks typically just shift down. Gordon Hayward was 0 for 7 last night in 21 minutes of play. You could find some of the minutes for James Bouknight. James Bouknight played 14 seconds. 14 seconds last night. 14 seconds last night. It's trouble. It's trouble, trouble, trouble in Charlotte. Now, we go here, and this is where we start to see if the body language adds up. If it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense. If you're a battle rap fan, you know where that comes from. Now it all makes sense. Shout out to Daylight. All right, now I'm gonna pull this here. What I want to do here is let's take a deep dive here, see if the body language matches up. Borrego is asked about the situation with Bouknight in this video. He starts talking about LaMelo, benching the starters, all of that stuff. A lot of things that some folks think is cap. It might not be. It might not be. And I will tell y'all, while I did watch this video, I hadn't like really analyzed it. So I literally could watch this and be like, yo, he really feel this way. He really might be out of touch or in touch, whatever you want to call it. And I'll say this before we watch. I am typically one of those guys who, if you got a plan, I truthfully probably won't criticize you too much, right? So like if you got a James Borrego guy and he's got a strategic outline, like this is gonna happen. I'm gonna slow the minutes down here. I'm gonna do such and such because it's gonna help develop, and then I'm gonna put extra time in here, and then you're going to get more benefit by watching than you are going to get by doing, because I am personally going to be doing X, Y, Z. If you got a plan that detail and you run it with it, I love it. If it don't work, then I'm still not gonna criticize you too much, because I'm gonna be like, bro, you try. I see where you were going there. In theory, it should have worked. But when you just feel like you willy-nillying, when it feel like you're doing it based off emotion, and I feel this way and my gut is saying this, and then I'm doing such and such, that's when I believe that the criticism is warranted at times. But let's.
You mentioned the third quarter. The starters weren't on the floor for the most part for the fourth quarter, etc. Just what did you, I guess, want to comment with that? It's more about some of the.
So here's some, as we start to look at the body language, he's answering the question, he's hearing it. So we're looking to see if there's any tells or anything going on with him while he's hearing the question that may give us some better indication of his answer and whether or not he actually believes the shit coming out of his mouth. Let's go. There's some head shakes, yes. So you had some solid stare. You got head shakes, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to try a different group there. Obviously, we were down, I don't know.
Now all of a sudden you start talking. What's the first thing you do? You get fidgety, right? Hands start going behind your back, your sides itching. And I said this before in videos. Moving around and being illustrative with your hands and things are typically not signs that you're lying, right? If he's saying, well, and is explaining and doing these things, typically that means that you're into it. But when you fidgeting and the movements don't match the words coming out of your mouth, typically you want some bullshit. Let's go back.
I just want to comment just more about some of the fines. I get cool that people out there just do it for you guys.
Yeah, I was just going to try a different group there. Obviously, we were down, I don't know, 22 after the third quarter. And on a back-to-back, I just felt like going to going with the reserves there to see if they could give us a spark, and I just rode them out.
It's hard to tell right there. Obviously, that makes sense right there on what he's saying. Let's watch it again.
There to see if they could give us a spark, and I just rode them out.
But then that tight lip right there said, I might have just got this one off.
Jake, I believe Gordon's 3 of 20 since coming back. Is it just a matter of him getting his leg back underneath him?
I think so. Yeah. I think he's gonna be fine. Just get your legs back underneath you, keep shooting it, keep believing. He was out for 2 weeks, so I expect his legs will get back.
JB,
Yeah. I think he's gonna be fine. Park, and I just rode them out.
Here's what I'm saying though. Watch this. Look at the difference between his answer about Gordon Hayward and his answer about the starters. Just the head movement and just all of that. Watch how
going with the reserves there to.
You see how stoic this is? He's looking at the dude. Head nod. I was going with the reserve, such and such. Typically, when somebody is giving you an answer and they cannot break eye contact with you, they're trying to see if you believe the shit that they saying, right? And so they might need to adjust it, they might not, so they're gonna stare at you a little harder. You lied it. And then as soon as they realize, okay, he bought it, they stop talking.
And on a back-to-back, I just felt like going with going with the reserves there to see if they could give us a spark, and I just rode them out.
Jake, I believe Gordon's 3 of 20 since coming back. Is it just a matter of him getting his leg back?
I already got that.
I think so. Yeah. I think he's gonna be fine. Just get your legs back underneath you, keep shooting it, keep believing. He was out for 2 weeks.
So much more animated when he's talking about Gordon and Hayward and all of that stuff than he was in the last answer.
So, I expect his legs will get back.
You even seen the hand get involved with that one a bit.
On the sideline looked nice. Can you tell us what happened there?
Obviously we were a little frustrated, all of us there in the third quarter, early fourth, and
So here's what I'm saying when I'm talking about the eye contact, right? So obviously the reporter is off this way, and so we saw him address him there, and then a lot of this is just recalling, right? So when people are recalling something and telling you about what's happening, they are typically looking off into this middle distance to try to bring that thought process up, right? So as he's recalling and thinking about what happened and preparing the answer, the eye contact is not strong, but then we'll watch.
You got it, a little emotional there. And beyond that, I'll leave it there.
Is it about playing time? The frustration of playing time?
Well, I just.
I feel like though when folks answer that, he like, you ever watched it that Dave Chappelle skit when it's Black Bush, and then you know what I mean? Damn, come on, bro. I knew I shouldn't have called on you. You asking these questions? Come on.
He's, as I said before, he's in a tough spot. He obviously wants to play. I get that. I understand that. So Look, he's a kid that we believe in, we trust in, and you know, we're going to find more minutes for him, more time. So I won't get into the specifics, but you know, just two competitors trying to help this team.
What I think is interesting right there is he said two competitors trying to help this team, and so I'm wondering, does this mean the two competitors are him and Book Knight, or is the two competitors Book Knight and somebody else, right? Because the question was whether this is an issue of playing time. And so when it comes to the issue of playing time, is he saying it's two guys who are the comparators we're having the issue with of playing time, or is he saying it's me and Book Knight, the two competitors bumping heads? I would not be surprised if this was like a slip and he just alluded to the fact that there are multiple guys who are upset about playing time and they're competitors and they gonna figure it out.
And was there any frustration over LaMelo?
Look at his reaction when he hear LaMelo's name.
Trying to
Look at this.
And was there any frustration over LaMelo?
Oh, come on! It's drama. Look at when he heard. When I be on here talking about the politics, and it's something. Did you see his face flare up when he just heard LaMelo name? It ain't good in the hood. Something ain't right.
Threw up some shots, maybe the best shot.
Come on. You this whole time we've been listening, watching him. These are facial expressions that we have not gotten from him yet. These are very telling.
Threw up some shots, maybe the best shots.
Disgust. Oh my God. Who? You brought up,
Yeah, there's some growth there. You know, that when we subbed there, it was not necessarily about that. I mean, it was his time, you know, this.
Here's the interesting part, right? Like I said, sometimes you'll have people be like, of course I like your food. And their head is shaking no. And that's like a lie. They do not like your food, right? But it's hard to tell here because he's saying it's not about that. And that could mean to me like it is exactly about that. That's why I did it. And the moment, which then would mean that like it's one of those things that same way when you hear his name, something happens and you say, see, and then you make a rash decision and pull somebody out, and then after the fact, but it wasn't that, it was just some other stuff.
When we subbed there, it was not necessarily about that. I mean, it was his time, you know, the sub was going to happen anyway, but there's things along the way in that third quarter we got to be better. And, you know, as the point guard as well, he controls a lot of that. So I think he's trying. I think he's trying to play the right way. Obviously, there's some shot selection and
I will say that there was a moment in the game where you can tell that this, and even Miles Bridges addressed it, right, where they have not been hitting the three so good that they seemed a big gunshot. And there was a point where LaMelo was wide open, had a three, pump faked it, drove in, and then there was nothing there. I want to say he might even lost the ball once he did that. Then the next time he comes down, the three is not really there, but then he launches it, and then that's the play that then got him pulled at that point.
Management of the game that is a work in progress for him, but we just got to stick with it. You know, he's trying to figure it out.
We got to stick with it. That's a realization that he's having for real right there.
As am I, and we will do it together.
If you ain't seen this video, my man Zoe was at the game last night. This hoodie that he's wearing, sweatshirt, it's a BBB sweater. If you subscribe to the channel, you've seen the live stream, we talked about that's one of the new items that they got coming out. It's like this like cashmere joint. That's like, you know how they charging like $600, $700 for it or whatever. But it's dope. But that's a cool video. So my estimation is that there's a lot of things happening right now in this Hornets locker room that the James Borregos and the Mitch Kupchaks and the Michael Jordans, they all gonna have to put their pride, ego to the side and then really start to have some conversation to nip things in the bud. You have a lot of talented guys in this locker room, and they all feel like they should be playing better, doing better, playing more, accomplishing more than what they are. Not only do I think that this like 4-game losing streak that they're currently on is one of the catalysts for this happening, but the reality of this Hornets organization is they have been fumbling the bag for a while now. When we just got the all-star selections going and the starters went out, and you don't even have a guy in the top 2 or 3 conversation. LaMelo is at 5, a dude who has the star power just to generate votes more than the majority of these guys who are ahead of him in voting. And then you also have the highlights. You also got a lot of things that are happening, and some way you were not able to turn that into a starter position. But then also the minutes and the rotation and the things that you got going on in the game had put it in a space where it was questionable for people, even if you could get a guy in as a reserve. Even the Miles Bridges, who is a human highlight and is scoring and is probably a most improved player candidate and a starter on your team, couldn't get a spot on in a situation where they need front court guys, where Middleton got in above him, which is crazy to me. And you got a LaMelo Ball who was giving you 27-7 damn near, and for some reason he couldn't even get a spot in as a reserve. I think that there's a realization that as an organization that there's a bag that's being fumbled and not a bag that's being secured. It's your main man, AB the Hero. We out. Peace.
No, not peace. +1, triple B's. We out.